Baby, can't you hear my call? I can't stand.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Dave Sims. Welcome to another edition of the Hey Now podcast. I got Jared Sims, my son. Jordan couldn't make it today. He's jammed up with his other academic duties. And we are thrilled to have Stephen Vogt join us right now. He is the 2024 American League Manager of the Year in his first year as a big league skipper. Now, as a former catcher, obviously not at the same level as Stephen, but we did hit it off years ago when he was with the Athletics, and I had to do a pregame show talking to somebody from the other team. I think I wore him out at one point, but we became good buds. And then he was with the Mariners in the 23 season as the bullpen coach. And then, boy, no sooner did that season end, he's in Cleveland, gets that job, and takes the Guardians to the American League Division Series and gave the Yankees what for. Steven, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you, Dave, and just pumped to be on here.
Appreciate it, man. I got it. I want to start right at the top. You went American League Manager. Dude, we knew you were good, but man, wow, good for you. Congratulations. What has that meant to you to get that right out of the gate?
Yeah, I mean, I still don't really know how to feel about it, to be honest, because you go into a job where you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. I've always wanted to do this, but then you get the opportunity and kind of going about the year day to day and learning so much. It was a long year, a lot of learning, a lot of questions. But then you get to the end, and we had a great year. It came up short. A couple games away from the World Series against the Yankees, tough opponent there, and we were pumped and we were proud, but we weren't satisfied. And then you get to the postseason, it's all over, and then all of a sudden there's this award and you win it, and it's really it's a testament to our players and our staff and our organization, and just kind of that confirmation of, okay, we're doing things the right way. We just got to keep pushing and trying to get better every day, and it's a really cool recognition, and I'm honored.
I mean, you had a great career. What were you drawing from? To navigate, the waters that shot up and down, in and out, that whole thing.
I think there's a lot, but to sum it up quickly, I would say, being a little bit older, coming up through the minor leagues and really having to rely on coaches and staff around me to get the most out of my potential in my career, it made me want to coach. And the more I dove into things, and I've always been kind of a natural leader, and I've always tried to just bring people up around me and push them to get better, which pushed myself to get better and helped us win more games. And really just kind of, I want to be that for other players, playing for Bob Melvin for a long time, getting to play for a number of great managers, and working for Scott Service in Seattle, and seeing the way these men went about it. It just really helped me form my style and who I wanted to be. And I asked way too many questions to coaches, and they got sick. They probably got sick of my questions, but I was eager to learn, and I love this game of baseball.
I want to get to that in a sec, but you being a catcher too, having to deal with pitching staffs. I mean, I guess if you were to put this on a grid, that would probably put you at the 10-yard line going in, having gone through all that, right?
Yeah, and I think being a catcher, your job is to make 175 in-game decisions every night, and one of them could win the game, one of them could lose the game, and so you have to be prepared, and you have to think along the game. You have to be watching the game, feeling the game, be informed. And so really the prep is maybe a different criteria than when you're catching, but it's the same kind of, you're going into the game with a great game plan, and when it's working, it's great. And when it's not, you got to make an adjustment. And I think all of those decisions behind the plate really helped me slow the game down this year and make those decisions.
Wow.
I got a question for you. Slow the game down. So Fry hits a big home run, walks it off. Clase, gives up a big one that was unexpected. You seemed, just watching, really cool as a cucumber throughout. You didn't kind of change your demeanor. Where does that come from, and how would you say that helped your squad?
Well, have you ever seen a duck swimming? You don't see the legs underneath. That's where the face comes from. But I learned a lot of that from Bob Melvin and Craig Counsell. And you watch Bob Melvin manage a Major League Baseball game, you have no idea what the score is at any time. And that was what I took from him, one of the many things. And then Craig always told me, you got to think about every scenario that can happen so you don't get surprised. And so when those spots do come up, as much as you don't want to think about it, you're going to be like, okay, if it's a homer here, this is what we're going to do. So you're not living pitch to pitch. You're already thinking ahead because you can't control the outcome. You just have to make the decision after it happens, and you need to be prepared for that. And so those two particular people had a big influence on how I'm able to keep my composure.
I love that. I just a quick follow up to that is, what would you, for kids who are just starting to figure it out, at the grassroots level, what advice would you have for them? Because they just haven't the reps that you have and the mentors that you did. What advice would you give the kids coming up to develop that mindset?
This is a game of failure. You're going to deal with failure way more than success when you play the game of baseball. And no matter who you are, I always say, Mike Trout, he fails 70% of the time. So the best players in the world, they're failing. And so when you do strike out in that big moment, or you do give up a home run on the mound, or you make that big error, that's okay. It's going to happen to you. And if it hasn't, you haven't played long enough yet. And the more times you're able to live through those mistakes, the less emotion you can show each time. Learn from the previous mistake. Learn from when it may not even be a mistake. You just got beat by a better player. That's going to happen too. So learn how to control those emotions better and better each time it happens. And I think that's the number one thing I can say is it's okay to get emotional, just not for long. You can't stay in that emotional state long.
Was that one of your basic tenets that you got to the guy, you gave to the guys maybe early on and when you first got the gig?
Absolutely. And I think, for me, I'm fortunate, the path that I took to get here, I know it's unique and I don't take it for granted at all. But I think being really close to playing, I'm able to have that, relationship and empathy for our players, because I was just getting my ticket punched by these pitchers 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So
I
know it's not easy to hit.
I didn't mean to short you. American League Championship Series against the Yankees. What was that an experience like, being at the stadium, as crazy as it gets?
I remember we were there for the workout, before the series started. We're in New York. I'm sitting in the outfield shagging with our, associate manager, Craig Albernaz, and we're looking around an empty Yankee Stadium, and you see ALCS up on the board, and you just kind of pinch yourself. It's not the World Series. We didn't win it. We came up short, but at the end of the day, you can't take one playoff game for granted, because it doesn't happen every year, and you have to be proud of what you did and stay hungry to do better. And being in Yankee Stadium in a playoff atmosphere, I had never done that before, and that was an unbelievable experience. I'm so thankful for it, and our guys played well. We made some mistakes, but I couldn't have been more proud of what our guys accomplished this year.
I'm hopeful for a rematch, Dad. You in the booth this coming season, Steven. Back on the field.
I love that. I just hope there's not a whole lot of hay nows coming out. You know what I mean? We want even keeled Dave, because that means we're in it.
Let's get to know the voter a little bit better. Take us back to Visalia, California. Baseball. When did it hit you? When did you go, hey man, this is what I want to do? I love this. I'm a little kid, but let's do this every day.
Yeah, I think it hit me when I came home from the hospital. My dad, my mom they had a baseball bat waiting for me in my crib, and
nice.
My grandfather grew up on a farm in Oklahoma, was a big New York Giants fan, listening on the radio, and then they moved to California, and then the Giants came a couple years later. So we grew up huge San Francisco Giants fans, and my dad pitched in college at Fresno State. My brother, 3 years older than I did, he played college baseball. We're a baseball family, and so it's just in my DNA. My dad was my coach. He was my high school coach, and I just love this game, and he taught me to love it and to respect the past and embrace the present. And, I grew up loving, watching Willie Mays clips and just the old, Willie McCovey, Orlando Cepeda. I fell in love with the Giants organization and my favorite players growing up and all of that. So I just loved watching and playing.
Boy, you were ringing my bell with that. I'm a little bit older than you are, and I got to see those guys when they'd come to Philly. And I just hear their names now. I knew Willie a little bit. I met McCovey once. Cepeda, met him a couple times. It just rings so cool in my head. And I like what you said about to know and respect the history of the game. And I know from being around all the major sports, and I remember Kareem Abdul-Jabbar saying this in his book, talking about, hey, man, there's guys that didn't know who he was playing with at the back end of his career. He's an old head at 39, 40 years old. Didn't know who the heck Elgin Baylor was or stuff like that. Did you have any conversations with guys maybe relating stories back to something that you learned or saw and the guy looks at you with a blank look, and he doesn't know who the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember there was one time, 2014, I got hurt in AAA, went back to extended for 10 days, and I'm lifting in the minor league A's, weight room, and there's a Terry Steinbach jersey, and I'm like, man, I want to put on an A's uni and catch like Terry Steinbach did. And
Good player.
one of the younger catchers was like, "Who's Terry Steinbach?" I'm like, dude, you have got to study up on the history of this game. There are people that have played this game and paved the way so that we can do what we're doing now. And that was really what it is. It's leave the game in a better place than when you found it. And that's what a lot of the former players did for us. And we get to play the game the way we play it now because of the groundwork they laid. And it's so important. So that was just one of many where I'm like, I started fuming, I had to take a lap around the weight room. You're an Oakland A's player. Let's go. You got to know who Terry Steinbach is.
Sometimes did you ever feel like you had to do a history lesson? All right, boys, here's the history of the franchise here in Cleveland. We had some good players for the years.
You mentioned your dad. I'm super proud of my dad, and very proud son. I try and be a great father. I have girls 5 and 7, so I'm a girl dad. Is there something I can think of many instances in business where I had to keep my composure, and it was out on the golf course where I might have thrown a club when I was 9, 10, and my dad, taught me an important life lesson.
After I strangled him.
Yeah, after you did the Homer Simpson. Like, are there any moments that you can think of that you can call upon lessons your dad taught you that have helped you in your career as a manager or as a player?
I think the number one is just the way my dad sacrificed for our family. And he, like I said, I mentioned he coached me, and he was fortunate enough to have a job where the hours were flexible. So he was leaving the house at 3 a.m. every morning to go work so that he could be home after school and coach my brother and I through Little League. And just that sacrifice of, he's tired. I know he's tired, but we were number one. And I try to do that the best way I can with my kids. I know I have a job that takes me away from home a lot, but you know what? I'm going to wake up and FaceTime you before school. I'm going to stay up and FaceTime you. I'm going to watch your games on live stream. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to be that present father. Because yes, I am sacrificing family time to give my family a life that we could have never dreamed of having. And we have a lot of fun. We get to travel. We get to go places that most people don't get to. And so from him, it's your job is not who you are, it's what you do. And your number one job is to be a husband and father. And I try and do that the best of my ability. And I have a beautiful wife that's way cooler than I am and way tougher than I am, that keeps, holds the fort down.
I love it. And you guys are still are you back in Washington now? You were near Olympia, right? Years ago when I spoke to you.
Yeah, we still live in the Northwest in Olympia, Washington. It's
Good
home.
For you.
We love it. It's where my kids have friends, where they have sports, and my wife has a life, and it gives some separation too for me. My mind's not always on baseball when I'm in the off season, and
Good for
that's
you.
the way I want to keep it.
Take me back to college. So Azusa Pacific, give me some lessons you learned as a player that are working for you right now.
Yeah, I think the number one is that my head coach there, Paul Svagdis, who's now at Westmont University in Santa Barbara, and that's where my brother went actually, which is pretty cool. But I was the first recruiting class that he brought in, and when he got the job, and I remember same thing. We talk about composure, right? I'm a freshman getting some playing time, and I strike out and I chuck my helmet, and he met me at the end of the dugout, and he said, "Come to my office." And he said, "If you ever throw your helmet again, I'm pulling your scholarship. We're trying to build a program here that's going to do things the right way, and you're going to be a big part of it. And if you're not on board, I don't want you here." And from that moment, I'm big-eyed and maybe threw my helmet a couple more times, throughout my career. But, it was one of those things where he laid out the groundwork of where we were headed and looped me in on what the vision was as a freshman in college. And then we worked together with a bunch of other players and coaches to build the program that, we made it to the World Series my senior year. But just to get that lesson as an 18, 19-year-old kid, and to have that faith from my coach of, we're going this place and I trust you to help us get there. That's how you build something. And so I got to live that as a 19 to 22-year-old. And now here I am, in Cleveland, and we're building something. We're in something that was already great, and we're trying to make it even better.
Yeah, good for you. Your big league moment. Give me your first big league moment that was like, oh my God, this actually happened. I'm here.
Well, it took me a year and a half to get my first hit, so I didn't have a
I
personal
remember
moment.
that. That's right. Yeah.
I
What
think
did you
for
go?
me,
Oh, for what?
I was 0 for 25 in 2012 with the Rays. I was up and down with Tampa Bay, and then I got DFA'd and traded to Oakland the following year in 13 and got my hit in June. But it took me 32 at bats before I got my first hit.
And I'm sure you're really happy that my dad just reminded you that.
I remember that off season, I'm sitting on an 0 for 25, and I'm having these vivid dreams that I got DFA'd, and I'm having to wake up in the middle of the night and check Twitter just to make sure it's not real, so I can go back to sleep. I mean, I hit my whole life, and then you get this opportunity, and you feel like you squandered it. You feel like you failed, and it took me a while to realize like I haven't failed, I just haven't succeeded yet, and to change that mindset into that, and then to go on to be able to do what I did. I'm so thankful I got another opportunity in Oakland.
Walk me through the AB when you get the first knock.
So, I get called up to Oakland in June, and I'm 0 for 7 since I got called back up. I went 0 for 2 the first 2 games, then I'm hitting again, and come up, and it's like real quick 0-1, 0-2. I'm facing Joe Kelly when he was with St. Louis, and I remember I stepped out of the box and I was like, dude, just relax. It can't get any worse. Just go relax. And fortunately, he made a mistake, and I hit a homer. And I remember I hit off the barrel, and I figured it would get caught, and the ball just kept going. And I don't remember anything between first and third base. I was floating around the bases. I couldn't believe it. It was just, that was the moment where it's just like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And just kind of tried to keep it going from there.
Wow. Good for you. I love how guys say they blacked out between first and third. I think Cal Raleigh said that when he hit the home run. I was against, well, you were at the A's. You were just finishing up.
I had a great view of that home run.
The being a clubhouse leader with that Oakland ball club, and I really like some of those teams that you played on. And I know, with the Mariners, man, we had a hard time beating you guys. Whether if you guys were really good or not so good, you guys played hard, man, especially at your place.
Yeah, I think a lot of that came from Bob Melvin, and it didn't matter if we were projected to win 95 games or 65 games or whatever. It was go out and compete, give the other team as much as we've got. We're going to fight until the very end. And it seemed like you said, I played on some very good Oakland A's teams. I played on some not so good Oakland A's teams, but it didn't matter what our record was. We were going to get the tying run to the plate at some point in the 8th or 9th. We were not going to go away. And I think that mentality of we're grinders. We're going to fight you. We may not have the same team on paper. We may not be able to do some of the things other teams can do, but we're going to fight you. And Mark Kotze did the same as our leader in 22. And, and we always had fun. It was go have fun, play hard, and compete. You never know what could happen.
You told us about your first knock. You got to walk us through the last AB and tell the folks, I never get tired of hearing this story. Your last game, was it a pinch hitting role?
No, I started the last game of the year.
Okay, so you started the last game of the year, and your kids are doing a PA. They're introducing you.
Yeah.
Your last AB, you go large.
Yeah. So I my last year playing, I was 37, went back to Oakland, and I was struggling so bad, and my body was hurting, and I kind of just made the decision in July. I'm like, you know what, this is it. I'm good, man. It was the first time I'd ever been on a baseball field, and I'm watching, and I'm like, these guys are better than me. I had never had that thought one time in my life, and I was starting to have that thought, and I'm like, you know what, that means it's time to go home. And so I talked to Mark Kotze and David Forst, and I think it was August, and said, hey, I think this is it for me, guys. Like, just want to let you know. And so they let me stick around the rest of the year, and I played a little bit here and there, first base, DH, and but then Mark Kotze said, hey, you're going to catch the last game of the year. And I was like, that's so cool. And so I got to start. Then the A's gave us a great send off, my family, me, a bunch of friends. And so anyway, my kids introduced, now batting our dad into my first at bat that day. And we're facing Shohei Ohtani, of course, in my final game. I get to, face that guy. And so anyway, ground out. And then I walked my second at bat, and I'm like, I'm good. Shohei Ohtani walked me, like, I'm good. That's a great way to go out. And Anyway, it was crazy because I go out to catch the seventh because Ken Waldachuk was absolutely dealing that day, and I was like, I want to finish his start. And so we get 3 up, 3 down, and I'm leading off the bottom of the seventh, and I hit the first pitch out for a homer, and again didn't feel it off the bat, didn't feel anything running around the bases. I'm jumping around like I'm 2 years old in the front yard, and that was the mindset I had going to the box. It was like, this is your last at bat you're ever gonna have. Just go have fun. And what do you know? You get a pitch to hit and you don't miss it. And it was such a dream ending to such a fun, blessed career that I wouldn't change a thing about.
I've seen a lot of joyous grand tours, if you will, Dick Enberg. But that's one of the most joyous home run trots I have ever seen. I mean, you might have set the gold standard. it was watching you float around, dude. That was awesome.
Yeah, I say this to our guys, and I said it to people I played with. I tried to tell myself this all the time, and this is a tough business. It's ugly. There's a lot of failure. You're going to get sent down if your name's not Mike Trout or Juan Soto. You're going to get DFA'd at some point. It's just the nature of the business. But for 3 hours a day, we get to go be 12-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And that's your time to go play baseball and love it and have fun. And I tried to embody that as often as I could, even in the dark times, even when it's tough. And I just felt in that moment, it was the 12-year-old kid came out in me, and I just enjoyed the moment.
Oh, absolutely. So somebody that you came up with in the athletics organization has a question for you.
This is a cheesy question, but I want all these young ball players to hear this. Why do you love the game of baseball? Thanks.
Boy, right to the point, huh?
Good to see Bruggy there. It's tough to put that into a concise answer because the game of baseball it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how tall you are, how big you are, how slow, fast. There's a position and a skill set that you can have to be successful in our game. And it's the most pure form of competition. There's no going easy. There's no letting somebody go by. When the ball is hit to you, you have to make the play. It's an individual game played for a team outcome. And there's nothing more pure than hitting a round ball with a round bat. And it's the smells of the ballpark, the joy of people at the ballpark, the organ music, the lights, the entertainment, and the big moments are so slow. And I think that's what we miss in other sports. You know, the big moments, the Jordan shots, the touchdown passes, they happen in an instant. And in baseball, it's just this calm and relaxed until it's chaos. And there's just no other game like it. And you learn so much about yourself and life through the game of baseball. It makes you tougher in all areas of your life. It's such a beautiful game. And I'm so fortunate to be able to work in it and get to watch Major League Baseball every night for a living. Is the coolest job in the world.
Not bad. That was what Jacob Brugman, a young man who got his first knock against the Mariners when I was there. In what, Jared, what'd you say, 2013? 17,
16, 17 would have been my guess.
Yeah, wow. So you played for 6 different organizations. Give me a slice of what you've taken out of those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I was so fortunate to get drafted and come up through the Tampa Bay Rays system. And, you know, think back to farm director Mitch Lukovics and field coordinator Jimmy Hoff, who passed on a few years back. And just the number of coaches and players. I mean, my first manager was Matt Cutraro, manager for the Royals. I played for him my first 2 years. Charlie Montoyo, I played for him in the minor leagues. And
a lot of good guys.
The coaches and people that I was around, they taught you how to be a professional. They taught you how to play every day. They taught you how to bring it every single day. And just the lessons that I learned in player development and how to push myself and expect greatness from myself. And that just set me up to be a pro my whole career. And, you get traded to Oakland, you learn how to be a grinder. You learn how to play at the Coliseum, which is the most beautiful last dive bar in baseball. And, it's a beautiful place to play a baseball game. And you get that, you walk into the clubhouse and yeah, it's not like Yankee Stadium or the other places, but it's our clubhouse. And you learn how to have pride in who you play for. You learn how to have pride in your teammates and going out and competing. And I grew up in Oakland in my baseball life, and that's where my wife and I we watched our family grow from 3 to 5, and
Wow.
it's always going to be a special place for us. And then you go to Milwaukee. I've never seen a place embrace players and family better, and they take such great care of you. And I love the Midwest. I loved the fans playing in Miller Park. It'll always be Miller Park, and just playing there. And you hit a fly ball to center field, and all of a sudden it's a home run instead of a can of corn to center, and leaving Oakland. And just so much fun to play there. And I took a lot of that out, and I learned so much from Craig Counsell and Matt Arnold and David Stearns. Pat Murphy was a huge mentor of mine there as well, and just so many incredible people. Darnell Coles was my hitting coach there. One of my favorite human beings I've ever met in my entire life, Darnell Coles, and huge impact on my life there. And then I get an opportunity to play for my childhood favorite team in 19, the Giants, and played for Boch his last year there. And so I got to watch Boch manage a bullpen.
Wow.
And make pinch hitting moves, and got to catch alongside Buster Posey and pick his brain for an entire year. And just the blessings that came. And and then going to play for Arizona and Torey Lovello and Mike Hazen, and learning from them. And the COVID year and how weird that was, experiencing that, and seems like a simulation when I look back at it. But it's just all of those learning experiences that I had in Arizona. We were not good the following year, so you learn how to play on a 100-loss team and how to pump your teammates up when you don't know if you're going to win that night. But we still need to go out and do our best, and we still need to get better. And you need to focus on that, and then get traded to the Atlanta Braves halfway through 2021 and win a World Series and play for Brian Snitker, and watch Freddie Freeman post every single day, Ozzie Albies post every day, Austin Riley, Dansby Swan. Watch these guys posting every single day, and what that takes, and getting that experience, and then getting to go back to and finish it in Oakland. I like I said, I wasn't the best player in the world. I didn't always have it together, but I wouldn't change anything, and I'm thankful for all those experiences because I learned something very valuable in every spot.
Jarrett, you would have loved this. At times in Oakland, I remember going there, and Stephen would be catching, and he'd always come up in a spot 6th, 7th inning. And you hear this section out in the middle deck, I want to say maybe even the 3rd deck, right field. And you got drums and timbre. I believe in Stephen Vogt. I believe in Stephen. How did you become such a cult figure in Oakland, man? I thought that was so cool. And it's such a rarity. I know they cheer like that over in Japan and Korea, but that was tremendous.
Yeah. I don't know why, I can't put my finger on it, but I remember I was playing right field, and it was 2014, and I'd gotten, I'd played in the playoffs the year before for the A's, and then got called back up in 14. And all of a sudden I hear those right field bleacher fans chanting, and I'm like, what are they saying? I couldn't, and it stuck, and it followed me everywhere. Every team I ever played for, I'd hear somebody yell, I believe, or, some sort of thing like that. And I think really what it is about Oakland fans is they're the underdog. They're the franchise that everybody kind of points at, but then they come into town and they beat you, and you're like, what just happened? And I think I was kind of that guy. I was like just the average looking dude that's out there on a baseball field, playing pretty well. And I think the fans just got behind it. And my family and I embraced Oakland. We love that community. We still are involved in a number of ways there, and always will be, because it matters to us. And I couldn't be more thankful for the fans in Oakland embracing us the way they did.
Good for you. Good for you.
I want to go back a second. You mentioned Bochy and Snitker. Like, what was, for either guy or both, is there a moment that's kind of sums the place they hold in your heart or mind, sums it up in terms of a moment on the field, in the dugout, the clubhouse, and something that you carry with you and has informed how you do what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, on top of, I'll start with Boch. I mean, just getting to play for someone like that, at the time, 3 World Series championships, and watching him manage a bullpen, before the 3-hitter rule and all those things that, and just, he had a knack for knowing exactly when to pull those strings. And there was one moment I'll never forget. I think I was catching, and, every now and then you look over at Boch, and sometimes you're like, is he here? Is he, because he's just so calm. And he came out and was arguing, blue in the face, screaming at an umpire, didn't get thrown out. And on his way back to the dugout, calls a pitch out.
On his way
And
back.
On his way back, calls a pitch out. And all of a sudden, the other team was trying to squeeze, and we got the out. And it was like, even when he was at the height of distracted or emotional or upset, he was still locked into the game. And I remember in that moment, I'm like, you have to be locked, no matter how emotional you get as a manager, as a player, whatever it is, no matter how emotional, you have to stay in the moment and be able to snap back in at any time. And so that moment for me was incredible. And, so I learned that lesson from Boch and from Snit. I mean, on top of just what a great human being, and loves his players. And I remember asking him, I'm like, Snit, I never see you throughout the day, man. Where are you at? And he's like, I'm in my office. And I said, okay. And he's like, what am I going to do? I can't coach you. Like, I don't know. We got good coaches to do that. Heck, I just come out and manage the game. And I remember those words stuck with me so much, that trust your coaches, allow them to coach. It's my job to manage the game, not coach our players. That's what our coaches are for. And so, like, that lesson from Snit, he probably doesn't even remember saying that to me, but that moment for me, like, I reference that daily. When I have this urge to, like, say something, I'm like, no, it's not your job. Your job's to manage and stay there. And so all of those little lessons that they've just always stuck with me.
Now I was going to say, Snit said that to me, I think last year before last, when Ron Washington, EY Senior, Walt Weiss. I mean, you got all these dudes, great experience, and he said the same thing. And I get it. And your staff with Cleveland this year, my man Carl Willis, who we just loved in Seattle, and Sandy Alomar Jr. I mean, you had some great guys there as well.
Yeah, I think I just feel blessed. I mean, to have Carl sitting next to me every game, when I start to get emotional or I start to get, sped up, especially early in the year, he knew exactly when to calm me down. He knew exactly how to just break the tension. And so having somebody with Carl's wisdom to be able to talk to every day I love watching baseball with Carl. I love the way his mind sees the game, and he's forgotten more about baseball than I know. And just to have him and Sandy Alomar, just the blunt truth that he speaks with is so refreshing, and you need it. And, I have to talk about Craig Albarnez and what he means. I've known Craig since 2009. We played together in minor leagues. I'm getting to do this job with one of my best friends in the world. And I'm just so blessed to have him with me, and Kai Correa, the job that he does with our defense. And, we lost our hitting coach, Chris Valaika, but he was phenomenal. We just have so many good people in our clubhouse and on this staff. I feel super supported all the time.
You may have thought about this. I have a mentor who told me he learned more in business about how to be a good father, and more in being a father about how to sort of manage people and be a good leader in business. You have 5 kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. My 7-year-old has ADHD. I'm going to have to figure out tonight how Boch and Snit, the advice and how that can help me be a good dad. To be present. But is there something that sort of you've taken and become a better father because of some of these things that you've picked up along the way in your baseball career?
Absolutely. I think it's, I think too many times as parents, we expect our kids to be perfect. I know I do. And I fall into that all the time. And, it's here I am, and I'm expecting them to do everything properly because they did it once. And it's like, dude, you just made a mistake in a game that you've played for 30 years, and you're expecting them to, so you have more grace, you have more patience, you have understanding that they're not always going to be perfect. I mean, and one of my sons deals with the same things as your child. And, it's the patience level and the ability to explain things differently to each child has helped me coach our guys differently. You can't speak to everybody the same. You have to understand who they are and get to know them. And I love getting to know my kids. They're fascinating people, man. I'm like, where did you come from? Because you ain't from dad and you ain't from mom. So I have no idea. And the parallels are huge. And I think the more patience you have and the more understanding and empathy it's going to help you in both areas.
Stephen, the only thing my dad wasn't patient with me that I can remember in my journey, my youth, is I was a hooper. I love basketball. And I would start shooting. This is pre-Steph Curry. I would start shooting 23 feet out. And my dad was patient with me, everything else except, hey, George Mike, and you start under the basket. It's this. And I was so stubborn shooting from 23 feet. But Dad, you were a patient dad in every other way, except on the mic and drill. I didn't do.
Yeah. Start close and work your way back. You got to get that muscle memory to knock those babies down. I want to go back to the managing thing. So you're with us with the Mariners. You're the bullpen coach. We loved you there. Couldn't have been more happy that you got the gig in Cleveland. But now you go to Cleveland. You're facing Terry Francona. I mean, you're replacing Terry Francona. Tito's going to the Hall of Fame. So I think the shoes are kind of big here, pal. And then you come out with this. But what was your thought when you went through that? Man, I'm replacing Tito here.
Yeah, I mean, you go all over the map, and it's, what do you hear? You hear all the time, oh, those are tough shoes to fill or big shoes to fill, and it's like, yeah, I'm never going to fill them. I can't fit Terry Francona's career into 1 year. You just, it's not possible. And the experience that Tito has and the person that Tito has become, you can't get that just overnight. That's something you have to earn over a long time. And I'll never fill those shoes, and that's okay. I just have to go be me. And I think I felt fortunate to be taken over for Tito, and because you're not inheriting a place that needs to do a 180 change. The way I looked at it is like, I'm merging onto the freeway. I just got to get up to 80 as quick as I can and not run into anything or crash. And so for me, and that's where the Cleveland organization and the people and Tito himself, they were tremendous help. I talked to Tito a bunch last offseason, trying to get up to speed on learning about the guys, learning about the systems, learning about everything and Tito was so gracious to help me transition well. And so, I mean, it was an all hands on deck, approach to it. And I've never been afraid to say, I don't know. I've never been afraid to ask for help. I don't know better because I've never done it, and I think that was one of the things for me perspective wise last year was every time something new happened, it was the first time. And so you have to learn from that. And there's no mistakes. There's learning lessons. And it's all about the way you choose to look at it.
Did you keep a journal, or it did actually? Obviously, in your head you did, but did you write stuff down to carry into next year?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I have about eight working notebooks with me at all times for every category.
I love it.
No, I am. I've always been the type where I don't pretend to have answers. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I know I'm not. And I want to learn from everyone around me because everybody has different experiences, and you can learn just as much from, asking Carl Willis a question as you can, our awesome security guard right outside the clubhouse.
Well, I know you're talking about. I don't know his name, but I've seen him for years. Yeah.
Yeah. You can learn anything from anyone. Just ask questions, and they might trigger a thought for you to get going.
Yeah.
Hey, so big Eagles fan, Steven, I'm rocking the always got something Eagles on, but Coach Sirianni called in Jay Wright from Villanova, two-time, won 2 national championships, other coaches from other sports. Have you ever drawn on relationships or, asked questions of people outside of baseball in a leadership role to help you be better at your job?
Absolutely. I've been fortunate to get to know Kevin Stefanski a little bit. And, we've had a couple conversations, and just hearing some of the ways he, does with leadership and bringing team together. I mean, right? Football, it's all about coming together as a team. And there's a ton of parallels you can take from different teaching methods, and so that he's one. I remember Herm Edwards came and spoke to us when I was in, Arizona with the Diamondbacks, and just hearing wisdom from him, I still draw parallels to the things he was talking about. So I'm all about, cross-pollination, so to speak, and grabbing from whoever you can get advice from. And anytime we can further our education and how to get better, we want to do it.
How fired up did you get after listening to Herm? I love Herm, man.
I was ready to run through the wall, man. It was awesome.
He's tremendous. That's really something. And Tito coming back to Cincy. What'd you think of that?
I think it's great. Obviously I didn't know Tito great. Know him respectfully from across the way and got to know him a little bit. But the game's a better place with him in it. And, I'm so pumped that he's back and feeling well enough to manage again. And, I know that Cincinnati's going to be a lot better place with him at the helm. And like I said, when you have good people in baseball, that's when we're operating at our best. And that's what makes this game beautiful, is the people.
Now let's go another layer inside baseball. I'm sure you can relate to this. The importance. A lot of kids are getting it really thrown in their face. The importance of size and metrics. Where do you stand on that as well? Because one of the great things, obviously, about baseball, I mean, you can be Freddie Patek, you can be Aaron Judge. But where do you stand on that?
I think that you have to find what you're great at. I think one of the things that we always focus on what our weaknesses are. We always focus on what we can't do. And a lot of people get to the big leagues and have great careers because they're great at one thing. And yes, you have to be improving your weaknesses. You have to be working on the things that maybe you aren't quite as good at, but you can be great at one or two things and have a great career. And sometimes we get so enamored with comparing ourselves to other players around us. Oh, well, so-and-so hits the ball this hard. Okay. Maybe I can't do that yet, but I can find other ways to impact the game. Not everybody has to be Aaron Judge where they're hitting 330 with 50 homers. That's why he's a 2-time MVP and making $400 million. Yeah. Like those guys aren't growing on trees everywhere. So I think for me, it's be true to who you are, push yourself to be as great as you can be at your pace. Some people like myself, I didn't really come into my own until I was 30 years old.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to stick around long enough to do that, but I didn't become the complete player that I was until I was 30 years old. And for some people, they're going to streamline and they're going to get there at 21 and they're going to be Julio Rodriguez and have a 20-year career and probably go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But for the majority of us that play this game, you're going to have to scratch and claw and fight for everything that you have to do.
To that point, I think we played you guys early on. We played you, I think both the last 2 years we've played Cleveland in the first month. You guys put the ball in play, man. And you did some small ball, you did some hit and run. I mean, it was old school National League. I loved it. I thought it was great. Did you suicide squeeze a few times this year?
We did safety squeezes. We never
safeties.
Suicide.
Okay. But the fact that I love Quan and guys like that, they put the ball in play. I mean, you didn't have a ton of boppers, but you had some guys that could rock it. But I love the fact put the daggone ball in play and see what happens. Make them make a play.
Yeah, I think that's been the Cleveland organization for years is high impact quality. And I think it's the contact and being willing to shorten up with 2 strikes. You're not just tapping it in play. We're still trying to hit it, but trying to hit a 3-run homer on a slider down and away isn't going to work unless you're Aaron Judge because he can do that. But for us, it's I had so much fun managing because we had the ability to do those things and we needed to score runs. And yeah, we hit our fair share of homers. We improved in that area a lot this year. And, you got Jose Ramirez, who had we played 162 would have been 40-40-40. And we just didn't get to play that last game. And Josh Naylor hit 30 homers. We had guys that had tremendous power years, but I remember one of the best compliments I got from about our team was, I think it was July or August. And we went somewhere and a reporter that probably hadn't watched any of our games said, you guys are right up there in, top 10 offense in baseball. But when I look at your stat sheet, where is it? And I said, thank you. He's like, thank you. I said, yeah, that means everybody's contributing. That means It's a different person every night. It may not be top heavy. It may not be middle heavy. It's dispersed all the way through. And that's the beauty.
So which I said, I had great admiration for you guys because I said, that team's a pain in the ass. Yeah. Just a pain in the ass. Goal accomplished, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely. Just make it tough on the other team. Fight till the end. Let's see what happens.
So impressive. The Cleveland fan base, I'm sure, obviously, get to the championships, the ALCS en route. They embraced it big time, right?
Yeah, they did. And I'm super thankful for the fans in Cleveland. I mean, you replace somebody like Terry Francona and it's this punk kid that just got done playing a year ago that nobody's heard of. And but the way that they embraced my family and me and just right away welcomed us to Cleveland, and our fans were tremendous. I mean, we had great crowds all year long. They were loud, they were intense. And if there's anything I've learned about Cleveland is this city loves their sports teams.
Yes.
Oh man.
Good sports town. Really good.
They love the Guardians. They love the Browns. They love the Cavs. we have a hockey team there they love. I mean, it's tremendous. And the crowds that we got, the support that we had throughout the whole season and the postseason, couldn't be more thankful for our fans.
Been a lot of chatter about this golden at bat rule. Is that a thing? Is that real? Is that what?
Look at his head. That tells you.
I'm gonna shut up and watch your face for all the answers I need.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I've heard too is chatter. I haven't heard anything. I'm sure it'll get brought up next week in Dallas at the winter meetings, and I'll sit quietly in the room and just listen to the more veteran people talk about it. But yeah, I don't know about that one.
Voter. I got to go like this. Ixnay. Don't want it. Don't need it. Come on.
Although the temptation of Jose Ramirez being able to hit whenever I want him to sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, have you imagined a scenario where you'd say, "Hey, Jose, here we go. Get that one shot."
No.
All-Star game. I'll buy it in an All-Star game if you want to do it.
Exactly. Do you remember MTV's Rock and Jock Baseball? That's what it sounds like to me.
Come on, it's the major leagues, man. Come on.
Yeah, we'll see.
Obviously metrics, sabermetrics, deep dives and that stuff. How up to your neck, or are you up to your neck in that kind of stuff? I mean, because you feel like an old school guy, and certainly these numbers tell a story, and you got to use some of them. But how much of it do you use and do you rely on?
Yeah, I mean, we use them every day, and I rely on them a lot. And to me, I feel like I'm kind of in that perfect area where I came up through the minor leagues, broke in when there was very little information. And then throughout my entire playing career, had to learn how to play with analytics, learn how to use numbers, and then now, to me, what it is 90% of the time, the numbers and your gut feel, they're the same. It's a no-brainer decision. It's that 10% where you got to know the people, you got to know the situation, you got to know how to place a bet when you need to place a bet versus, nope, this is the guy I want hitting right now. I know the numbers suggest something, or this is the guy I want to pitch because he's the better pitcher. To me, you can't blindly use your gut and you can't blindly use analytics. Analytics are there to help educate. And for me, it keeps me accountable to not go with my heart all the time. And I feel like it's a good balance of both. You have to educate yourself on the numbers. You have to be aware of what the data suggests. But at the end of the day, you got to watch the game and you got to make decisions accordingly. And I feel like we have a pretty good balance of that.
What was your best gut decision this year?
To safety squeeze David Fry in the playoffs to get an insurance run.
Boy. I love, so you did the safety squeeze. I think we saw Wash do it once or twice when we played the Angels. How many other guys did you see use it this year? I'm not sitting here that this has to be a league event, but it's such a weapon. Sometimes I think it's kept in the back pocket or on the shelf. And I was talking to Mattingly about this in terms of the bunt game, in terms of little things. These guys don't know how to defend it. So use it every now and then, spring it on people.
Well, I think, to me, I think probably saw 4 or 5 teams use it against us, so I mean, it's a decent amount. But I think for me, that was one of the things I learned from playing for Joe Madden, and that was an emphasis we had with the Rays was we all had to have the ability to get a bunt down to the first baseline if we wanted to play in the big leagues. And, now, kids growing up, we don't bunt and get in the minor leagues. You don't want to give the prospect who's got a big moment at bat. You don't want to put a safety squeeze on or a bunt on because you want them to get the experience of that at bat. And so some of the guys, I remember talking to some of our guys and they're like, yeah, I haven't bunted in 3 years. And it's just kind of the way the game got away from bunting. It got away from giving the other team outs. And I agree with that to sometimes, sometimes you want to go for the kill rather than, play some small ball, but there also has to be some feel. And I think for us, we found a pretty good balance and probably could have used it more than we did, but you also have to let your guys hit and give them those at bats. And so we want to win the game tonight, but we're also our shortstop. It's his first year in the big leagues. We want to give him a big at bat and see what he can do. So it's all of those different things you're developing while trying to winning. And it's a tough balance sometimes.
Well, to your point there too, about first year in the league or something like in the majors, see the panic on his face when a guy squares around and gets it down. I mean, I know Luke Raley, big moose that we have, that big guy as a home run hitter, and he laid out some of the best bunts I've seen in years. And it's interesting what you say about, I haven't bunted 3 years. Some guys probably haven't bunted since ninth grade.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, you're the best player on your high school team. You're going to, that coach ain't going to give you the bunt sign. You go to college, you're not
Let
getting
it ride, big boy.
No,
Let it ride.
Absolutely not.
You reminded me of something. I had a conversation with John Buck, all-star catcher like yourself, and a friend and business partner. And he told me it's an unwritten rule where a guy in his first big league AB, you'll often see him go yard because unwritten rule, you want to the pitcher will give him something to hit, give him something down the pike. Is that true? And are there some other unwritten rules that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, I don't think that one's true. I think maybe a few years ago when John was playing, there was a little bit. Like now it's, heck no, I'm not letting this guy hit a homer off of me. No chance. And, plus we have a lot more information on players when they get called up now too. So we kind of have some tendencies. But I remember, the old school mindset for us was see if he can hit a fastball. Once he proves he can hit a fastball, then we'll start moving around. But now we know everyone can hit a fastball. So you want to be careful there. But the unwritten rules are beautiful, and I think there's still a lot of them out there. I'm very attuned to those. We don't run when we're up. We don't bunt when we're up. We don't, there's just certain things, in my opinion, that you just don't do. And that's my old school heart. And that's how I'm always going to respect the game above everything else. But that's not for everybody. And that's okay. We don't have to agree. We don't have to see eye to eye. And that's the beauty of it too, is everybody's got a different opinion. That's why I love baseball. Everybody looks at it differently.
What we're recording this before the winter meetings, but as you sort of project ahead a little bit to 25, what kind of changes at teams, like certain teams, what are you looking for? Let's just talk about your division, like where teams are trying to shore things up.
Yeah. I mean, our division was one of the best in baseball this year. With 3 playoff teams, 3 teams in the championship series. And, I didn't know much about AL Central baseball before this year. That's good baseball. It's not the star-studded rosters that you see on the coast, but man, everybody plays hard, plays good baseball. There's great managers up and down. And it's just a tough division. Everybody plays each other tough. And, you look at what Kansas City did last year, bringing in Lugo and Waka, and, they brought Waka back. I expect them to make a few more moves to solidify. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr.'s a pain in my butt, and hopefully going to be for the next 10 years, and, and Salvi Perez just doesn't seem to age. So it's a fun team. I like watching them play. And, Matt Cottraro obviously was my first manager. I'm a huge fan of his and what he's doing over there. So I'm sure they're going to keep adding. And Detroit, I mean, we saw what they did with a young roster, and it's only going to get better. And they've got some dollars to spend, I think. So I expect they're going to add a bat and a couple arms maybe. And, then Minnesota's never going to go away. That roster is unbelievably good. And, they got bit by the injury bug a little bit this year, like most teams do. But they're not going anywhere. They're going to keep adding, and they're going to keep getting better as they get older. And, and then you even have to look at the White Sox. And I know they had a rough year, but there's some really good young players we saw that if they continue to develop, they're going to be a tough team. And, and then you have us, and we're going to be pretty much the same team, or hopefully, our guys are always looking to maximize our roster and get us in the best spot. But we have almost everybody coming back from last year, and that makes me excited. And, we lost Matt Boyd to the Cubs, unfortunately, and, but we'll see what happens from here on out. But I love our group of guys. They're young and they're hungry, and they all love to work, and that's all you can ask for.
Who I'd loved a lot of guys in your team, but man, Emmanuel Clase, that dude coming out of the bullpen. I know I gave up 5 earnings all season. They got him in the playoffs, but what a great year. Are you kidding? He was automatic.
Yeah. You asked me, like, what did you learn in your first year? It's like, have a perfect closer, and then you won't have as much stress.
Seriously.
This dude wants to pitch every single day. And, you've been around the game a long time. Like, how many closers do you know that haven't pitched for 2-3 days and we're up 8-0 or down 6? And he's like, I want to pitch tonight, no matter what. Like, this guy just wants to pitch. He wants to go out there. He got 4 straight saves, 4 straight days. He got 4 saves. I had to keep him in the clubhouse because I knew if he went out to the bullpen and there was a save situation, he was just going to get up and warm up and come in. So we had to keep him in the clubhouse. I mean, not only is he the best closer on the planet, but he also loves to pitch. And it's amazing to have someone like that.
That sounds like Kobe checking himself into the game, right?
Right?
That sounds, Kobe just.
Yes. Yeah. No, he's just. I'll tell you what. This guy would get into Emmanuel would get into the most difficult situations, and he was in a bases loaded, nobody out, and we saw him yawn on the mound. I mean, it's just there's no heartbeat, there's no panic. It's I'm gonna get the out. I'm good.
Is that rubbing off on some of the other guys?
I believe it is. I mean, our bullpen was incredible all year long, and it was fun to watch them.
A couple of kid pitchers or batters that youngsters that you're going to bring up this year excited about?
Yeah, I think on top of the people who we have coming back, we've got a left-handed starter, Doug Nikhazy, who's had a really good year last year. We're excited about him, and we got Chase DeLauder, big left-handed bat outfielder, who's got real power, and he can move out in the outfield. So those are 2 of the guys we're really excited about that are getting close, and we've got a number of prospects that are getting ready to get up AA, AAA, and could impact us next year. So we feel really good about where we are as a team organization, and I'm really excited to get going in 25.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So take us through off season now. You like you said, from the womb, baseball's in your DNA. But when you want to turn off your baseball mind, family's important to you, clearly. But what is it that you do to enjoy yourself? Music, movies, walk us through when the baseball mind goes off. What is the voter doing?
Yeah, so for me personally, I try to get out on the golf course as often as I can. It's good escape. It's freezing, but as long as it's not raining here, I'll go play some golf. I don't care.
That's a Washington golfer, boys and
That's
girls.
right.
That's
right.
a Washington golfer, Washington
right.
State.
As long as it's dry, I'm out there. So, that, and then I coach my daughter's 14U softball team while I'm out here, and help out at practices and games, and then helping coach one of my son's basketball teams. So they're all involved in sports and activities. It's family time, and when they go to school, I get some work done and get out on the golf course as often as possible.
Nice. Daddy ball is a real thing. Are there fathers who think they know better than the manager of the year?
I don't know if they still do, but they did up until about a year ago. So we'll see. Wow. No, we have a good time. I mean, my wife helps coach the team as well, so we get a chance to get out there and be a family out on the softball field too.
Signing a lot of autographs out there in Olympia?
No, I get to keep a pretty low profile out here. I'm just an average guy walking around. So
good for you, dude.
It's been nice.
And it sounds like I can speak for my experience. Jarrett's mom, my wife, is like superstar. And it sounds like your wife is the same. An absolute superstar.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she played college basketball. She coached college and high school hoops for a while. So she's the real manager of the Cleveland Guardians. Let's get serious.
Yeah, and she gets a jock life too, right? I mean, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, my wife played tennis at Rutgers, so high school tennis, player and star and all that kind of stuff. So she gets
no doubt.
Hey, voter, dude, you're the best, and I look for. Hey, I'll see you in January at the Baseball Writers Dinner here in New York, and hey, great hanging out with you here for this hour, man. Really enjoyed the heck out of it. Thanks so much. Means a lot.
I had a blast. Thanks for having me, guys. It was really good to see you.
Hi, everybody. Dave Sims from the Hey Now podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us here on the Hey Now podcast.
I can't stand